What's an evil company not enough people talk about? Blackstone. It's on more people's radars nowadays but still not enough. The biggest landlord of them all. You wonder why your once affordable suburb now has 500,000 starter homes that virtually nobody can afford on the average local salary. Blame these guys. In fact, I'd say Airbnb, VRBO, Redfin, Zillow, every company that adds nothing of value to the economy except artificially pumping up numbers on houses that the supermajority of Americans have been taught to think of as a riskless get-rich scheme, instead of a basic human need. UPS. I've seen decisions made that have killed employees and then the supervisor responsible get promoted. I've seen managers get fired for removing time worked from time cards only to be hired back a month later. I've saw intentional OSHA violations on a nightly basis for years. I see supervisors relentlessly harass employees. Horrible company in every way imaginable. Fucking Roblox. It may seem just like some kid's game company, but it's corrupt as hell and absolutely filled to the brim with pedophiles, and the creators are completely aware and do nothing about it because it gets some more money, and also they once sued a guy for telling people about how corrupted they were, and of course the massive corrupt company won. Google Alphabet. The old saying, if something is free, that means you're the product, has never been more relevant. And Google arguably has more of your data than anyone, and their manipulation of content and leveraging of your personal data is arguably on a tier all its own, yet they never seem to get mentioned in the same context as a company like Meta. GM lobbied to black neighborhoods, bulldozed to build freeways in the middle of cities, and bought out mass transit companies to dismantle them. Polluted the world with gas fumes, and made American cities too dangerous to navigate without giving them tens of thousands of dollars for a car of your own to protect you from all the other cars. Amazon. It is a very toxic and hostile work culture. I read somewhere a while back that at Amazon, workers are encouraged to tear apart one another's ideas in meetings. Also, Amazon workers would work very long and late. The company didn't care for their workers' mental and physical health if they got ill from being overworked. The Christian Broadcasting Network. Pat Robertson was one of the biggest pushers of anti-LGBT propaganda to Christians everywhere, going as far in the 80s to say that gay men wore rings with a spike so when they shake someone's hand they'll infect the person with HIV. May he rest in peace. Tyson Foods, Cargill, National Beef Packing Company, and JBS. Even if you'd gawk about animals, they are pretty awful to the people who work at their slaughterhouses, and those four are like 85% of the market, so they also greatly exploit the farmers who raise animals for them. IBM has to be up there for working with the Nazi government to facilitate their census with IBM punch card technology. They were still working with the Nazi Party to aid in genocide well after most of America was already calling for a full economic boycott. Goodwill. They are non-profit in name only and pay disabled people sub-minimum wage under the guise of helping them. They also put literal garbage on the shelves and sell things higher than they were new. Some were worse than others. Our thrift grift. Johnson & Johnson knew they had asbestos in their baby powder and still sold their products, causing countless cases of ovarian cancer and mesothelioma. Source: Starbucks. It's not as liberal a company as people think. They essentially gained a lot of their coffee through slave labor in other countries like Brazil, and they treat their baristas like shit. There's a reason many stores are unionizing. Nestle bought some aquifers in Florida and could only legally take X amount a year. They just drain them and pay the fines. Also Monsanto, but I think people talk about them a decent amount, but some people have never heard of them. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Incorporated. Also known as the Mormons, the antebellum MLM were old white men sitting at the top of the pyramid live off the tithes demanded of the many cult victims making up the base. BlackRock and Vanguard. Because they're still not talked about enough. They just move around money and use it to influence US policy. They produce almost nothing that helps anyone below a certain socioeconomic status. PG. They've burned down California several times, killing a number of our citizens here. Then having the audacity to play money games with the families of the deceased or those who have lost homes. Fuck him, all of them. Every corporation would poison your babies and plenty do if it would move the stock price $1 and if they could get away with it. They do not care about literally anything except money. 3M. This is who is responsible for most of the forever chemicals that are destroying the environment, fucking with people's hormones, birth defects, and other general terrible shit like cancer. HCA Healthcare Corp of America. The largest, for-profit hospital system in the country world probably. Imagine if Walmart owned your hospital. That would be an improvement over HCA. Any for-profit health insurance company has plenty of blood on its hands, charging people out the ass only for non-doctors to decide what cares or isn't medically necessary to cover. Much a monopoly on the vision care and product to just about all fashion eyewear and eye care, the ridiculous prices. This is probably a personal bias, but United Healthcare. Any health insurance company, this all stems from the United States healthcare system. Any company still operating in Russia supporting the war, Value Village. They trick people into thinking they are a non-profit, take donations that could be going to people who need them, and charge insane prices. Nestle, I haven't bought a single Nestle product to my knowledge in over 10 years. They can fuck off with their water isn't a human right bullshit. Bayer knowingly sold blood clotting agents infected with HIV to Asia and Latin America months after, withdrawing them from Europe and the US. Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, Twitter, basically all the big corporations, there isn't one that has the best interests of the consumer at heart. Unilever makes everything we use, still doing business with Russia like it ain't no thing, and letting their employees get conscripted. Not a company, but there was that BLM charity whose founders ran off with all the money, which everyone seems to have just forgotten. Autism Speaks. Edit. Holy shit, thanks for all the awards. I can't believe I have more upvotes than the post itself right now. Nearly every single one. Most companies don't become successful without exploitation, breaking the law, being shitty in general. De Beers, the largest diamond company in the world, has been exploiting workers in the world's poorest nations for 135 years. Wall Street, Citadel Securities, hedge funds in general, had them on the ropes after 2008 and distracted people away from them. I think a lot of people in this thread need to reread the question, especially the not enough people talk about part. Was not on here already. Not just for how shorty their business practices are, but how they vote. Citadel. They run and manipulate most of the stock market, but they do it through various independent arms. BlackRock and Vanguard. Chances are they own the majority shares of whatever evil company you're thinking of. Ubisoft. They used to make some of the best games, but nowadays, they're so obsessed with microtransactions. Acme seem to have gone for decades selling weapons of mass destruction without much pushback or regulation. Pearson VUE. Did none of you go to college and shell out way too much money? Or take a standardized test? Pfizer pre-COVID. Not trying to sound like an anti-vaxxer, but they've always been a pretty shady company. BlackRock. They own almost everything, so, if there is such a thing as an evil company, they'd own it. Wells Fargo's pretty shady. I've never worked for or banked with them, but they're pretty shady. Noah Pharma, formerly known as Pori Pharma. They are the main character of the opioid crisis. Capital One. If you all had any idea, you'd ditch every credit card and pull your money out ASAP. Nestle, their acquisition of water resources is downright evil. And incredibly stupid. Foxconn. Their buildings legit have suicide nets to catch people who try to jump. Luxottica, an eyeglass sunglass monopoly that keeps prices artificially high. BlackRock is half the reason why most people can't afford to buy a home. Starbucks. They would not give first responders water for free in 9/11. HR Property Management will evict on trumped-up charges to flip a unit. BlackRock, Koch Industries, Sinclair Broadcasting, Cisco, McKesson, Monsanto. First was asbestos. Now Roundup. Other in between? I'll let you know when my NDA is lifted in 6 months and 1 day. BlackRock, Blackstone and Vanguard are corporate overlords. Citibank apparently, according to a few friends of mine. BlackRock. They have their paws on nearly every industry. Comcast. They do not give a fuck about their customers. Monsanto. Just agriculture downfall towards humanity, disappointed face. Herbalife. Absolute trash scam ruining people's lives.